Not gonna lie, I had trouble picking a title for this video. The re-Blairification of Labour, a vote for the lesser evil, still a vote for evil. Keir Starmer is a boring, lying, psychopath prick. With the general election all but officially coming in 2024, the stakes have seldom been higher. The world is at a boiling point, there's a massive cost of living crisis. I will show you Keir Starmer's true face as the Antichrist of British politics. Let's look at the man who's taken the fight to the Tories and is gaslighting you to sleep.
Calm yourself down.
Get out of my pub!
Calm down.
Quote, Machiavelli's enduring contribution to political thought and practice is the remarkably resilient idea that politics involves the transcendence or violation of ordinary moral principles, that fraud, force, lies and violence are justified because they are necessary for political success. Now, I'm convinced that this man is a masterclass in political and psychological Machiavellianism. Hear me out. Writer and founder of Novara Media, Aaron Bastani, said in 2022, the most mentioned word in Niccolo Machiavelli's Prince, that handbook in how to deploy power, is necessity. More than virtue or fortune, it is necessity and grasping what is necessary to achieve a particular end. While he may have the charisma of a damp cloth, Keir Starmer seemingly understands that.
Prime Minister, I'm reliably informed that contestants that give the public the ick get booted out.
Yeah. Oh my God!
He finds positions of potential vulnerability, like failing to appear patriotic, and doesn't just address them, he overcompensates. I'm inclined to agree with Bastani on most of these points, except I feel he gives him more credit than he deserves, and doesn't do justice to the media's brown-nosing and... Anyway, Keir Starmer's been caught an insane amount of times making outrageous contradictions, even having the audacity to pretend he never said them in the first place. Exhibit A.
But those 4 industries will be in the Labour manifesto for nationalisation come 2024.
They will. They're baseline indicators of where we're going.
A few moments later.
But I'm asking you a big principled question. Will you nationalise the big 6 energy companies, yes or no?
No.
No, you will not. This is what you said as part of your 10 pledges. Public services should be in public hands, not making profits for shareholders. Support common ownership of rail, mail, energy and winter. You promised that 18 months ago and now you're saying no. Why?
I don't see nationalisation there. There is
what else does public hands mean?
There's a world... Well, public services should be in public hands. But when it comes to something like energy...
In fact, this incessant lying has defined his leadership since 2020. Here is an interview with Keir during his leadership campaign where he is asked about his opinion of Jeremy Corbyn.
I'm not going to rank Jeremy Corbyn.
Clive Lewis gave him 6 out of 10. Come on, you've been around long enough to rank Jeremy Corbyn's leadership. You sat alongside him. What do you think he scores?
I'm not going to rank Jeremy Corbyn. He's a colleague, he's a friend, and he's led us through some really difficult times in the Labour Party. And I don't want to trivialise that by giving him a number out of 10. I respect him and thank him for what he's done, but I'm not going to get involved in that.
His answer was crafted with a specific Machiavellian purpose. He knew that, since Corbyn became leader, people joined up to Labour in the hundreds of thousands. His chance of being elected as leader rested in the fact that he needed to appease this bulk of members. He was elected on the grounds of his pledges to continue Labour's key policies, and being such a close friend of Jeremy, a man that he respects so much that he's greatly offended you even have the audacity to whittle it down to numbers. Being elected was just the beginning. He needed to consolidate his grip on power in order to achieve his true goal, moving Labour back to the right and into Blairism. But immediately after being sworn in, the backtracking began and his true colours began to show. The lies are outrageous and contradicting, that the only possible explanation for it is that he will say and do anything to win the favour of the political establishment. I was going to do one section on Starmer's lying, but it's such a recurrent aspect of his politics. It reeks out of every single media appearance he makes, every position he seems to take. Now I know what you might be thinking. Let's now address this idea that he is somehow a lesser evil. Aside from the fact that a vote for the lesser evil is still a vote for evil, this idea that he is even a lesser evil has no substance whatsoever. I'm sorry, but he doesn't get to have that label just by virtue of being Labour. While he campaigned for leader, in order to win over socialist skeptics, he refused to be interviewed by The Sun, which is known for its backwards editorial stances. Great, right? Only, once he secured the victory and a year after his election, he went and wrote an article for them.
I don't know how you've got the guts to come to this city after you have been being interviewed and doing columns for the Sun newspaper, after the way we as a city were abused.
Which brings me to my next point. Starmer toes the Tory line in opposing striking workers and threatened to suspend his own party members for joining picket lines. Here he is not only opposing Coventry bin workers' strikes, but scoffing at how insignificant they are to him.
Thing in relation to this industrial dispute and most industrial disputes. On the funding, I don't think an industrial dispute in Coventry. Influence relations between the Labour Party and its trade union.
Since mass strikes in almost all industries started last year, Starmer has had ample opportunity to voice his support. I mean, he can't stop reminding us his mummy was an NHS nurse.
For me, the NHS is personal. My wife works in our local hospital. My sister was a nurse and my mum was a nurse. And
he wasn't having an off day scoffing at those bin workers in Coventry. He refuses to support any workers. So tell me again, what is the difference between him and the Tories? Has he earned your vote? Because he sure as shit hadn't earned mine. But let's go further down this rabbit hole a little bit. Him trying to beat the Tories at their own game is shifting the entire political dynamic in the country to the right. Any one of these guys will curb stomp our economy, our healthcare system and our welfare system into the dirt. Do not ignore these red flags. His praise of Blair and Thatcher is not a coincidence. With our help, he'll be warmongering, neoliberalising and privatising with the best of them. Let's now move on to Keir's foreign policy, which is looking more and more unethical and warmongery literally by the month. The Israeli state's unprecedented slaughter of Palestinians has created a massive global uproar unlike any other time before. Thanks to the work of brave journalists and the arrogance of a state which has the backing of the politicians of the US and UK and all of its media, the mask has started to slip. This is what Keir had to say about the blockade on water, power and medicine in the siege on Gaza.
A siege is appropriate? Cutting off power, cutting off water?
Well, I think that Israel does have that right. It is an ongoing situation.
Starmer, human rights lawyer Hugh Lanning in the Tribune says, quote, Labour rightly has no hiding place from critics inside and outside the party. Labour has failed morally as Blair did on Iraq. Labour has in reality gone to war on Palestine without the support of the majority of the party or the British public. Palestine is a litmus test issue for Labour's ethical foreign policy and it has spectacularly failed. Well, Hugh, he is a Zionist without qualification, after all.
Israel.
I'm fucking beating their ass!
I was never really a fan of the fact that our democracy was dominated by two political parties, but those were the days that Labour actually had an identity and there was at least some kind of difference. And the Labour Party somewhat tolerated the left. Obviously, Jeremy Corbyn revived and brought new life to Labour with a massive grassroots movement which appealed to the working class from all walks of life. His own party, including Keir, tried to sabotage him at every turn. They tried so hard to discredit his policies to take back public ownership of this country's crumbling infrastructure from the neglect and exploitation of private companies. He challenged and warned us about the planned regression of the NHS. But now Labour, under the direction of Blairite Starmer, is wielding right-wing policies and rhetoric and purging his critics like there's no tomorrow. And all this after having run on a left-wing platform. There's no point complaining about him, not liking him or critiquing him if you're just going to end up voting for him, is there? You may as well love him. What's the difference to them? I think Malcolm X was ahead of his time in saying, don't flee into the open jaws of the smiling fox, running away from the growling wolf.